Okay, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order here on October 11th, 2022, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Present.
Commissioner Guess?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. We'll stand for the invocation with Commissioner Henderson, and then we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor and Commissioners, if you will allow me to read a prayer from the Book of Prayers, a prayer that has resonated with my spirit in the last few weeks. Lord, I'm so impatient. Nothing seems to be going my way. Everything seems to be against me, from traffic lights through computers and supermarket queues to relationships. There seems to be no end to it. Thank you that you're patient with me and everyone in the world. Thank you that you do not deal with us according to what we deserve. May I learn to trust you more in all that you are, in your timing, in your justice, in your love that never fails. Lord, help me to become just a little less restless. I pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have some proclamations tonight, which I'm very honored to be able to read and present. And the first proclamation has to do with Rosary Chapel Catholic Church, which is celebrating their 75th anniversary. This happens to be a church that I'm pretty familiar with. I grew up going there with my family. Came from a big family. We didn't go there every Sunday, but I've been there many, many, many times, and I'm very proud to have representatives of Rosary Chapel here. So if you guys will come up, I'll read this proclamation. And so this proclamation states, whereas Rosary Chapel Catholic Church was established in 1947 by Reverend Albert Thompson, pastor of St. Francis de Sales, and because of segregation, felt that black Catholics needed a parish of their own for a sense of identity. And whereas parishioners of Rosary Chapel contributed their time and labor to convert 3 houses into a small chapel and 2 classrooms where they could share in the social and educational activities centered around their church. And whereas the Paducah community at large helped Rosary Chapel and school to grow spiritually and materially, to purchase additional houses in 1952, to construct a 3-story brick building to accommodate classrooms, living quarters for the sisters, a large kitchen, cafeteria, and an auditorium with a capacity for 200. And whereas over the years the church has grown to become welcoming family of multicultural members who share pride, worship, and fellowship. And whereas the family of Rosary Chapel are grateful for the accomplishments of the church, our pastor, and the bond of its members in faith. And we look forward to celebrating many more years together. Now therefore, I, George Bray, Mayor of the City of Paducah, do hereby proclaim October 16th a day of celebration for the 75th anniversary of Rosary Chapel Catholic Church in the City of Paducah, and I commend this observance to all our citizens. Congratulations. We'll get a picture
Say blessed.
Okay, I'm going to move, we have somebody who's going to be here for the next proclamation, so I'd like to move up the police department swearing-in ceremony. And so I'll turn that over to Chief.
Mayor, Commission, it's my honor tonight to present to you four of the newest police officers for the City of Paducah. We have Brooke Adams. She is a native of Whitesburg, Kentucky. She's a bachelor's degree from Eastern Kentucky University and has been serving in the Army National Guard since 2015. We have a familiar face for you. We have Bryce Mansfield. As you may remember, he's originally from the Louisville area, went to the University of Louisville, worked for WPSD, and most recently for about a year and 2 or 3 months, he's worked for us in our 911 center as a dispatcher. We also have Tyree Owens. He's a native of McKenzie, Tennessee, and has served in the U.S. Army from 2015 through 2020. And then we also have Stephen Leedy, and he's originally from Dixon, Tennessee. Most recently was living out in Colorado and moved his family here to take the job. He served in the U.S. Army from 2013 through 2019 and currently still serves in the Army National Guard. So we're extremely excited to have them on board. We have Circuit Judge Tony Kitchen here to do their swearing in. So.
Nice to have you, Judge.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I appreciate it.
You don't have it memorized?
All right, lady and gentlemen, would you raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me? I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm. That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And be faithful and true.
And be faithful and true.
To the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
To the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
So long as I continue a citizen thereof.
So long as I continue a citizen thereof.
And that I will endeavor.
That I will endeavor.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
To detect and prosecute all gamblers.
To detect and prosecute all gamblers.
And others violating the laws against gaming.
And others violating the laws against gaming.
And that I will faithfully execute.
And I will faithfully execute.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
The office of police officer for the Paducah Police Department.
Police officer.
According to law.
According to the law.
And that I will faithfully discharge.
And I will faithfully discharge
The duties of my office.
the duties of my office.
And I do further solemnly swear and or affirm.
And I do further solemnly swear or affirm.
That since the adoption of the present Constitution.
Since the adoption of the present Constitution.
I, being a citizen of this state.
I, being a citizen of the state.
Have not fought a duel with deadly weapons.
Have not fought a duel with deadly weapons.
Within this state nor out of it.
Nor within the state, nor out of it.
Nor have I sent or accepted.
Nor have I sent or accepted.
A challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons.
A challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons.
Nor have I acted as second.
Nor have I acted as second.
In carrying a challenge.
In carrying a challenge.
Nor aided or assisted any person thus offending.
Nor aided or assisted
Any person thus offending. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being here. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
I think I'm gonna let,
I've just texted him.
he'll be here in about 10 minutes.
Okay,
So I'm gonna let
He's here?
Hill and Hall do that.
he's here,
Okay.
Mayor, he's here, he said. He's coming up the stairs.
Okay. That's canceled. I got canceled, so. I know you're probably wondering what I'm waiting on. And we have a guest who's going to be here to receive a proclamation. And he's just walked in. So let the record show that I waited on you, Dr. Reese. So we have a proclamation honoring Tree Week. And you know, trees are something that I don't think any of us probably give a lot of thought to at times until they're no longer there, or until they, you know, are not somewhere where we expect to see them. And I think that raising awareness for annual Tree Week, and talking about trees is something that's important for a city like Paducah that, you know, that values its landscape and the trees that make our community, you know, even more beautiful. So, Dr. Reese, if you and whoever wants to come up, I'll read this proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, whereas it is imperative we look to our tree canopy as a source of strength and relief in the face of a changing climate. And whereas trees in our communities help to offset the negative effects of climate change and reduce storm water runoff, cool our city, filter air and water pollutants, store carbon dioxide, and help improve mental health and well-being. Whereas the City of Paducah has created a partnership with the University of Kentucky's Urban Forest Initiative to provide support for tree canopy preservation. Whereas the City of Paducah is committed to preserving and maintaining its tree canopy as part of an investment in green infrastructure and neighborhoods. Whereas the city joins communities across the Commonwealth to celebrate trees and green spaces and their value to citizens. Now therefore, I, George P. Bray, Mayor of Paducah, Kentucky, hereby declare the week of October 8th, 2022 as Tree Week in Paducah, and encourage citizens to participate in a local event sustaining and celebrating trees and green spaces in our city. This proclamation is presented to West Kentucky Community and Technical College for their work to establish and support Tree Week. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I really appreciate it very much, sir.
It's more about that than it is.
You're barking up the wrong tree. I would like to briefly say thank you, Mayor, and to all the commissioners. You know, as mentioned, we are celebrating Tree Week next week. We were very lucky, I believe in 2020, to be recognized as a Green Ribbon School for our efforts in supporting the environment. And so, as you correctly said, trees are a powerful part of that. In many ways, it's I call it God's filter for nature. There's so many benefits associated with tree and what it means to literally for green space and for life. So we thank you very much for this recognition, and we'll celebrate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Dr. Reese.
Thank you.
We're
I
glad
was,
to see you branching out.
Dr. Reese, I'll make one more comment before you leave. I was just in a meeting yesterday, and as a consultant we're working with asked about who are some of the most important partners, that we've got in the community, and after thinking about it real quickly, I mean, one of the things I said was really WKCTC, Dr. Reese and the staff is a key partner for the city and a valued partner for the city. And so we appreciate your leadership in Tree Week. So thank you very much.
Thanks all of you.
Okay, we've got a presentation from Peel and Holland, DJ Story, to give us an annual health insurance update. Welcome, Mr. Story.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure seeing everyone again. This is our time of year. We talk about the health insurance and the benefits that we provide, the city provides for the employees of the City of Paducah. And so I'm going to have the honor of going through a little bit of financial and historical information, and then where we're at for this year's renewal and all that. I won't spoil the lead. It's all good news. So we're another year where we get to I don't get anything thrown at me. It's a positive year for us. So we'll go through historical plan costs, projecting what we'll finish out this year as far as costs to the city, and then budgeting for the next year and what escrow and everything will look like, and allocations for employees, as well as recommendations for any changes in the other benefits. Quick historical cost review. I won't expect you to look at every number on this slide. The biggest thing that I like to show on this is just what our trend has been over the course of the last few years. If we look back to 2015 to projecting out 2022, these are our total costs in relation to providing health insurance to the employees of the city, and also joint sewer agency that's connected with the city's health plan. The biggest thing you can see over time is just the consistency that we've had regarding claims. The trend in medical inflation and the cost of insurance is not one that's flat. So to see a trend that is fairly consistent over the course of this many years is very positive for the city, and the consistency helps us budget appropriately for the cost of the insurance. Now, as a reminder, the city's plan is self-funded, and so that means that the majority of the cost associated with providing health insurance is actually the cost of the claims. So a huge benefit or the huge part of the consistency of claims is also the employees taking part in the health insurance in a healthy way, not overly spending or going to wrong sites of care, emergency room when they don't need to, and taking care of their health and wellness. So the function of the wellness program and things within the city has provided for a number of years actually helps keep our costs down, because that keeps our claims costs down. The blue columns that you see on the page there are the overall claims cost, or the plan expense overall that comes in. The claims cost is a majority of that, along with a small portion of insurance. The things below the line are what we get reimbursed. So the cost of city employee premiums, JSA premiums, and then the green sections are stop loss reimbursements. So if we exceed that stop loss threshold for any high cost claimants, we would get reimbursed on that. But it's not necessarily a negative thing if we don't see those in some years, because that means our stop loss premium doesn't increase. Any questions on this? So look overall escrow projections for this year, and again, the escrow is just the health claims and or the health budget that we put in place to make sure that we can even out. We're going to have good years and bad years when it comes to health insurance claims. So the more that we can have set aside to make sure to cover those bad years means we don't have to immediately turn to the city employees and increase costs or change plan designs from that nature. So if I do a quick rundown of this, the basic claims projection we're assuming for the end of 2022 is going to come in just over $2 million in claims. We always like budget for a run out projection. That is, if we did have a really bad claims year and we had to bail out of a self-funded type arrangement, we'd have to pay out the claims that were
still occurring and while we're exiting the plan. And then we have an admin and insurance piece. Part of that is administration that we're paying to Anthem to administer the claims. And then the insurance is what's called stop loss. So after we exceed a certain threshold of high cost claims, then we no longer have any liability after that. So that in total is about 2.7 million. Our escrow currently is right around 2.9, and then we also allow in that escrow for a certain number of specific claims, specific deductible claims. That's basically high cost claimants. Let's assume that we have a bad year, or we have some folks that have some really high cost claims. Let's go ahead and budget for those. So when we total all of those things up, we look at a escrow need about just over 2.25 million, and then we have a funding need that's roughly around 2.8. The premiums that we're receiving in based on the current census of employees puts that at a positive to us. That shows as a negative, meaning we don't need additional funding in our balance in order to meet those projections that we're at. We've funded it appropriately given the claims that have come in this year. So looking forward to the 2023 renewal, there is one main change that we are proposing this time, and it really wasn't going to affect employees. So as a reminder, being a self-funded employer, there's a few main parts of the benefit that we have to then purchase from outside carriers, Anthem in this sense. We have an administration fee that we have to pay for. That's for them to pay the medical claims and get the discounts with the hospitals and providers. There's a pharmacy benefit component that we pay to Anthem for them to be able to go and get their prescriptions and have a discount related to those. And then there's the stop loss or the reinsurance. If we have a high cost claimant, they're going to cover after the first $175,000. We received the stop loss renewal from Anthem. It was not favorable, and despite negotiation, they weren't really willing to move much on their number. And so as your insurance advisor, we took that out to a broader market of stop loss carriers. Took it out to quite a few, came back with the best possible option for the city, and we have a firm stop loss offer from a company called Voya that gives us better rates and for the 2023 plan year. Basically what this means for an employee perspective, the administration is still through Anthem, the pharmacy benefit is still through Anthem. They won't notice any difference. The difference is just on the back end related to who we're purchasing the insurance on that cap after we exceed that $175,000. And that's where we're recommending the Voya stop loss. Any questions on the basic concept of that? So if we look at an underwriting review, this is a lot of numbers, but I'll break it down to this. If we look at admin and insurance perspective on our expected, the cost with the Voya stop loss included in that actually goes down, even with their same specific stop loss deductible of $175,000. Our admin and insurance cost actually reduces, but the expected claims does increase slightly from where the expected claims were in the prior period, and the maximum claims has increased slightly from where they were in the prior period. That's a lot due to medical inflation. The quick way to think about this is if we have an expected year based on the projections of the underwriters, then we would still we'd be still loading things into that health claims fund and still have a very healthy fund moving forward so that we don't have to make any changes again for employees related to their benefits. If we do have a maximum claims year, then that's when we would start to dip into that more of that health fund. But the good news is the work that we've done over the past years means that even a maximum year doesn't mean immediate change for employees, because we have the budget to make adjustments if needed over time instead of having to make knee-jerk reactions. That's a lot of information there. Are there any questions regarding that? One thing I also wanted to talk about is regarding the historical allocations, and then also step back and think, what does this mean from a benchmarking perspective? Now, this is data from Kaiser Family Foundation regarding employer health benefits. This was taken from 2021. The average annual employee and employer contribution for family coverage. So we're talking about what does an employee have to pay, what does the employer have to pay when they're purchasing coverage for health insurance coverage for their family. The annual amount on average in 2010 was just under 4,000, and the employer was paying just under 10,000. That's increased in 2021, where that number is nearly $6,000 for the actual employee and family, and the employer is paying 16,000 towards that. When we look at the city's allocation budget on what they are contributing for employees' families on that investor style plan, the employee's only paying $4,692, and that's not including wellness credit, right? So they have still an opportunity to further reduce that amount through the wellness benefit up to another $2,000 if they max it out. That reduces their liability towards that coverage. And the city's allocation towards that is only $8,724. So in 2022, we're paying, and the employee can pay less than what a national average was back in 2010. And even if they didn't receive any wellness credit, they're still better off than 6 years ago from a national average perspective. So again, here's our allocations for the past, since 2009 through 2022. And for 23, we recommend no allocation changes from the city and no premium increases from employees, which would be the 11th straight year of no change for employees. And I know it's not going to be hard to understand that is not precedented. Folks don't have that. We have a lot of employers, public entity and private companies, and there's not other employers that run. They might not increase in employee cost over the course of a few years, but their costs are certainly going up. We've been able to work through with, again, the help of the employees making good decisions, HR and finance team making sure the budgets align, that this has gone on for a good long while now.
I'm kind of curious, do we benchmark our plans against, I don't know if there is such a thing as an average or a median plan out there in terms of coverages and what the employees themselves experience when they go to a doctor, go to the hospital, go get a prescription filled?
Yes, we have done some benchmarking in the past. We haven't done it in the last year or two locally here with Peel and Holland, but we also can look at national benchmarks. So that same Kaiser Family Foundation that we pulled that data from, they have benchmarks on overall deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums. I don't have the data right in front of me, but I want to say the average national deductible, last time I looked at it, was closer to $2,600, $2,800, something like that. And our investor plan is at a $3,000 deductible. So although that might be slightly higher, we take that into consideration with the premium being lower than the average as well. I think the overall exposure to employees is better than what those averages are. But we could pull those things together to show that. And I think we have in the past. I just haven't updated it recently.
I assume we maybe show it to employees, or, I don't know, but I think it'd be good for all of us to give visibility to that,
Yeah, we can definitely update some information around benchmarks, and that could be part of the employee meetings regarding the enrollment, just to remind folks that, because the 11 years is not common, but also when folks are used to it being the same, sometimes they don't appreciate the value that they're receiving because it's not changed in that long. Right. So I think it's a great idea. Any other questions on that? A couple other changes. Delta Dental did have no changes to the plan design, but there was a 2% rate increase based on utilization. When I say 2%, the monthly rates are very minimal already. So you're talking about an employee-only cost at $25.95 going up to $26.47, so 50 cents a month in relation to the dental premium. Even on the family plan, you're talking about $2 a month from a premium change. That is a voluntary plan, so employees pay the cost of that. There wouldn't be a cost to the city. The Anthem Vision, there was a change. Again, this was a 6% rate change, but we're talking about small dollars, from $6.58 to $6.97 on a monthly premium for vision, but no changes to that plan. We evaluated an alternative vision option, but after a review, it really wasn't worth an adjustment in plan because of the possible disruption of doctors and options there. HRA, FSA, no changes. HSA, no changes. There was a group life change. This is the group term life, so this is the life insurance the city pays for each employee. That rate will increase to about $291 per month more based on some claims. But this does not affect employees' costs. This is just the cost of the city. And then wellness, there will be a transition of wellness programs from Peel and Holland to HealthWorks. We'll still coordinate with HealthWorks. We're great partners with them. We want to make sure to give them all the data necessary to make sure and maximize the wellness program and drive those results necessary to see the City of Paducah's insurance costs stay low. And then we also information about the Move Well app and some things around that Stephanie can cover.
Good evening, mayors, commissioners, city manager, city clerk. We have, Peel and Holland has kind of moved away from the wellness plan that they provided, and with that, we thought it would be a good time to look to see what other offerings might be out there. So with that, we have decided to recommend the change to HealthWorks for the wellness provider for all employees. The overall incentives of the wellness plan would not be changed. The only change would be who is administering the plan, the app that you're using to receive information, as well as where the information would be sent to for physicals, things of that nature. We'll still tie the partnership between Peel and Holland and HealthWorks. The new wellness plan will have many more benefits for employees. Outside of the app, they'll have on-site services here for us at the city. They'll track all participation. They'll provide one-on-one coaching with physical therapists, dietitians, and other wellness professionals. They'll help us work on the health and wellness culture that we have here at the city, as well as any new monthly challenges that might come up. The additional benefits as well will provide telehealth services for employees. So any participant could, instead of going to an urgent care or through Anthem's teleservice, health service, they could use HealthWorks telehealth free of charge for them. And they will do an annual on-site health fair for all employees where we bring in all of our providers for dental, vision, and they will also do the screenings. So the biometric screenings could be done on site. With that, we hope to offset some cost from the medical plan, both on physicals, doctor's visits, and ultimately getting people more involved in the wellness side, preventing those catastrophic future claims that may happen. There is some cost changes with this new provider. Previously, we were paying with our disease management program and wellness around $36,000 a year, but this one increases to $30 per participant per month. So for a total of about $120,000 a year. But we feel like with us, as good as the health plan is doing, it's beneficial to employees to add some more benefits to them. They would receive all the same programs that currently only those with chronic health conditions have access to. So it's opening up all those programs to everyone instead of just those select few. So overall, it's about an $84,000 increase annually. Are there any questions?
None from me.
Okay, thank you.
So overall, our recommendations are to hold existing rates and allocations for city employees, renew the insurance service agreements required to renew for 2023. That would include Anthem Administration for Health and the Vision, Voya for the stop loss, and Delta Dental for the dental, Peel and Holland on the advisory services, and then Mutual of Omaha for the life coverage, and then move forward with the HealthWorks wellness and chronic disease management. As Stephanie said, I think that combination of, we were starting to target those folks with the high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes through that. The more we can integrate the wellness and the chronic disease management, the more that we're going to get opportunities through that to reduce our costs and help those individuals that could be potential high-cost claimants and drive the cost of the plan. So, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions or thoughts from commissioners? So I think it's pretty amazing, that we've been able to hold rates for as long as we have. And the only curiosity I have is how our plan stacks up, for the employee when they go to the doctor, the hospital, the deductibles, all the things that, mean something to them, and just being able to understand where that is compared to, I don't know if there is such a thing as an average plan out there.
Right.
And
Well, and I will say too, and historically, I think we had to make some harder calls back, 12 years ago, related to changing those plan designs, making the health savings account plans more affordable, encouraging that investment in that, encouraging the wellness credits to a level where someone can get really, free cost of their insurance and then even put money towards the cost of their care, making that, those were not necessarily popular decisions over a decade ago, but the fruit of that has, is borne through the last decade. And so probably if you'd have checked a benchmark of where we are at towards public employers, our plan design back then would have been probably worse initially. But that has leveled out because everybody's cost has increased, and then
Right.
we've been able to maintain.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy to get some additional benchmark that proves that out or shows where you're at in regards to that.
Well, that's what you just described is what I would anticipate, based upon the change, in the last 11 years. But it sure would be nice to,
Sure.
to have that story,
Yeah,
if you
we
will.
can definitely do it.
So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, city manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay. So before we get to the consent agenda, I just have one topic that I thought I'd address. Some of you may be aware or may have heard that there was some activity that began taking place today on the Katterjohn Building, which is a large, older building in the midsection of Paducah. It was originally built by the Illinois Central Railroad as a hospital, and it's been vacant for many, many years. So starting back in the summer, first of all, the building changed hands a number of months ago, and back during the summer, we began to see some change in the building, and we attempted to work with the owners to make sure that the building got boarded up, that the grass was cared for, that we put a fence up around the building, around the property to keep people off, and so that didn't work out so well. And so the city began to go in and do some of the work to make sure things got taken care of, and we noticed that the building was not in good shape, in very poor shape, in fact. And so we hired an engineer to come in and take a look at it and give us kind of an assessment of the building. That assessment really recommended that we remove the most unstable part of that building. And so we began doing that work today. So the city does not own the building. The city is primarily interested in public safety, safety of people, who might venture into the building. We've been working hard to try to secure it, but I got to say it's a big building. It's been there for a long time, and we've had some real challenges with that. So I wanted to, communicate that to everybody here and those who are interested, because people, I got phone calls today, people asking, they noticed right away, because it's a large building. and gets a lot of attention. And I've gotten, many calls over the summer about the status of that building, and from neighbors, people who live in the neighborhood, and so that's the latest. We hope to have eventually a long-term solution for the building, and we want to work with the current owners to find that solution. But in the short run, we had to do something in the interest of public safety. So, just wanted to give the community an update on that. We'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. City Clerk will read the items recommended for approval. Would any of our commissioners like an item removed for separate discussion? If not, I'll ask the City Clerk to please read the items recommended for approval.
Approve minutes for the September 27, 2022 Paducah Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents, personnel actions, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with the Luther F. Carson Four River Center Incorporated in the amount of $45,000 for specific services. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to apply for a matching grant in the amount of $45,000 from Game Time for the purchase of playground equipment at Coleman Park. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to accept a 2022 Bulletproof Vest grant through the U.S. Department of Justice in an amount of $6,804 for body armor for the Paducah Police Department. A municipal order establishing policy for the use of spending credits toward the purchase of certain benefits such as health, dental, or vision pursuant to the city's group health insurance plan for the 2023 plan year. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a wellness services agreement with HealthWorks Wellness and Health Services to administer the 2023 City Wellness Plan. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for a strategic health risk advisor and strategic benefit placement services with Peel & Holland Financial Group for administration of the City of Paducah's health insurance in an amount of $78,900 plus $200 per hour, subject to a minimum retainer of $5,000 for requested services related to employee bargaining, legal matters, and disputes or other similar issues, and authorizes the execution of the advisory agreement services addendum. A municipal order authorizing an agreement for administrative services with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield for the group health insurance plan for the City of Paducah, Kentucky for the 2023 calendar year, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order approving and adopting the comprehensive health insurance benefit plan premiums, the vision insurance plan premiums, and the dental insurance plan premiums for calendar year 2023 for employees of the City of Paducah, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order accepting the rates for stop-loss insurance coverage, authorizing an agreement with Voya Financial Advisors Incorporated for the City of Paducah, Kentucky for the 2023 calendar year, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order approving and adopting the group life insurance benefits proposal with Mutual of Omaha and a total annual group premium amount of $50,276.16 for employees of the City of Paducah, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same.
So moved.
Second.
Please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have three municipal orders. The first of which is appointment of a couple of people to the working group for the new outdoor sports complex. There's a very important group of people who are going to be involved in the design and the management of the process for the development of this $40+ million outdoor sports complex. And so we have a couple of appointments that the city is able to appoint. And so I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, a municipal order approving designating the city manager and director of Parks and Recreation as the City of Paducah's appointments to the Athletic Complex Project Working Group.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? That's our city manager, our Parks and Rec director, so. Okay, please ask you to call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, and the next municipal order is authorizing our city manager to issue an RFP for telecommunication franchises. This is a process that we've gone through over the last almost a year, 8 or 10 months, making sure that, that the telecommunication franchise agreement was inclusive, yet at the same time protected the city. And so we went through several iterations of that. And Michelle?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Great. Well, good evening, commissioners, mayor, city manager, and city clerk. So as the mayor mentioned, we went through an extensive process and the board recently updated the telecommunications ordinance. So the next step in that process is for us to issue an RFP for the creation of telecommunication franchises. This is a non-exclusive process, so we anticipate having several applicants and the potential for several new agreements. Our timeline is we're looking to release the RFP on Friday, October 21st. It will be open for 3 weeks with a closing date of November 11th. We're going to do our best to review them as expeditiously as possible, and they'll be brought back to the City Commission for your approval. I don't know, City Manager, if there's anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Michelle and our finance team and in engineering, city clerk have all worked real hard and tirelessly to get us to this point. I appreciate their efforts in doing so. We are moving forward to open up the competition for these services, and I think it's a good process to go through. And these initial franchises are for, again, as Michelle said, not exclusive, but they'll be for 10-year period.
So moved.
Second.
I need to read it.
She
Okay.
needs to read it first.
She needs
Oh,
to
she's
read
got
it
to read it
first.
first.
We are out of order.
I anticipated that.
I'm glad you made that mistake instead of me this time, so usually it's me. Please read.
I propose motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing and Directing the City Manager to Initiate a Request for Proposals for a Non-Exclusive Telecommunications Franchise in Paducah, Kentucky, in accordance with Chapter 108 Telecommunications of the Code of Ordinances."
So moved.
Second.
Okay, take call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Thank you, Michelle. So the last municipal order tonight is where the city's getting ready to issue an RFP for the spot of the old Kresge Building on Broadway. And we've taken a lot of time and put a lot of effort into the thought process around this. And so I'll let the city clerk read it, and then maybe the city manager could.
Yeah, we'll ask Nick to come up also.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing and Directing the City Manager to Initiate a Request for Proposals for Development of the Property at 318 Broadway Street."
So moved.
Second.
I'll let Nick kick it off for us.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Commission, City Manager, City Clerk. So 318 Broadway Kresge site, the city acquired it back in 2019 and demolished it due to a roof system failure. And so we've been working with the adjacent property owner since then to get the property in a position to get redeveloped. And so we are now ready to put it out for proposals. We've had a lot of interest in the property since it became city property, and we anticipate a high interest in response to this RFP. So there will be a 10-foot permanent maintenance access easement on the Regions Bank side that will allow them to maintain the exterior of their structure. So that will prohibit infill development to go from wall to wall. But hopefully we can still achieve a quality infill development as a result of this process, so.
Well, that easement also provides access, beside the building to the backside of the building.
Correct.
And, one of the discussion points I've had with different people is throughput or, people's opportunity to move from Kentucky Avenue over to Broadway. So that's kind of a natural spot there, a 10-foot wide, that anybody that develops a property is going to have that opportunity. So I think there's a positive there.
Absolutely.
And part of the delay in getting us to this point is we had to clear up some of the legal issues surrounding that, and then that 10-foot easement was a large portion of that, and of getting that lined out, and so we could go through the process and get it recorded, has taken a little bit longer than we had hoped. But I think it's also given time for the community and those interested to really envision what the best possible use is. And so we're excited about getting to this point, seeing the proposals that come in, and then working through that process to re-envision that space to the best and most highest usage for our community.
Questions, thoughts? Ready to go? Okay. Okay, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, we have one ordinance to adopt. This is the second reading, and so I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the closing of a 20-foot wide, 192-foot long alley west of Cruz Avenue between North 32nd Street and Marianne Drive, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the City of Paducah does hereby authorize the closing of a 20-foot wide, 192-foot long alley west of Cruz Avenue between North 32nd Street and Marianne Drive, and authorizes, empowers, and directs the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed from the City of Paducah to the property owner in or abutting the way to be closed.
So moved.
Second.
So, just remind us where the property is again, just.
So if you think about North 32nd Street, it is actually the property owner that made the request of this, that owns the adjoining, the properties there, wants to close it in so he can redevelop those. And then, so if you're thinking north, south, east, west, Cruz running this way,
Okay.
32nd, this.
Okay. Cool. Everybody good?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have the introduction of one ordinance tonight, and some zoning text changes, amendments, and we'll let Josh come up and want to read it first? Yeah, why don't you read it, and then we'll let Josh talk.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 126 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance amends Section 126-32, zoning of annexed land, to update initial zoning policy upon annexation, Section 126-76, sign regulations, to clarify time limits for certain temporary signs and sign size requirements in commercial and industrial zones. Section 126-98, accessory dwelling unit, ADU, to clarify the location of accessory dwelling units to be outside the principal structure. Section 126-120, neighborhood services zone, NSZ, to add bed and breakfast as a conditional use in the neighborhood services zone. And Section 126-176, planning commission, to bring public hearing requirements into compliance with KRS 100 and KRS 424, change when development plans are needed in certain instances, and remove the requirement for a sketch plan for the consideration of preliminary development plans in order to be more business-friendly. Said amendments were heard by the Paducah Planning Commission at a public hearing on September 8th, 2022, and forwarded to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Josh, unentangle us.
Mayor, Commission, Mr. City Manager. Yes, we do have several
proposed text amendments tonight. And as Madam City Clerk mentioned, this was at a public hearing at the Planning Commission. They have forwarded a favorable recommendation. Currently, whenever property is annexed into the City of Paducah, it comes in as an R1 low-density residential zone. And because of that, in the way it's been on the books, staff has always maintained that's meant to be temporary, meaning it takes that R1 zone until either the Planning Commission or this body rezones the piece of property to what it should be. Now, in order to do that, for the Planning Commission, they do have to find that it's inappropriate and that the proposed new zone is appropriate, or that there have been changes of an economic, social, or physical nature to the property. However, with the property coming into the city as R1, it's not incongruent with KRS 100.209. Now, what KRS 100.209 says is what is allowable in the county is allowable in the city upon annexation. For example, if you can build apartments in the county and you're annexed, you can still build apartments in the city. And by utilizing that R1 zone, we take away that ability. So what we hope to do in the future is work with our legal counsel to establish zoning at the same time annexations are done. We've had preliminary conversations with legal counsel, and we think that and hope that can be achieved. Secondly, the sign code, there's two major changes. The first is for temporary signage. Right now, the way that it's written is we have different time lengths for temporary signs, whether it's a sandwich board sign, a grand opening sign, a political sign. You actually have to read it to know what kind of temporary sign that we're looking at regulating. However, there's a Supreme Court case, which is Reed versus Gilbert out of Arizona, that says it's unconstitutional if you have to do that. So what we've done is we've implemented a 67-day window for temporary signs across the board, with the hope and the intent that events will place their signs 60 days before, take them down 7 days after. And secondly, there was some confusion on how to calculate wall signs in industrial and commercial zones. The way that it's currently written is that 30 linear feet is what is construed to be utilized for that calculation, when it's meant to be 30 feet of the height. That way it's height, 30 feet of the height times the width. That way you have a sign that matches the character, the zone, and fits in with the neighborhood instead of a little bitty tiny sign. When accessory dwelling units was adopted, I believe it was in March or April of this year, the intent was always to have the accessory dwelling units in the rear yard of a principal structure. As currently written, an accessory dwelling unit could be within the envelope of an existing structure. However, what you essentially have is a two-family dwelling. Two-family dwellings have their own lot size requirements, their own width requirements, their own height requirements. So in order to take that definition away from two-family to be a true accessory dwelling unit, we've clarified our language to put it just in the rear yard. The neighborhood services zone, as we all know, is Fountain Avenue, currently doesn't have bed and breakfast as a land use. And although there can be other types of land use that is more traffic generation, such as retail, restaurant, personal service, that's conditionally approved, this is not. So to improve and expand choice of land use in the NSZ, we would like to introduce bed and breakfast as a conditional use. And the HARC would be the body that would oversee those. And lastly, there's two major changes proposed for Planning Commission. The first is when a preliminary development plan is actually needed. Staff has looked at this, and there's very few limited cases in which we think that this could be done. And I've presented this body and also the Planning Commission with a real-life example of something that we've been in discussions with the property owner with. And it's particularly at 4955 Alvin Barkley Drive, which is the rental house across from the college with a steep bank. She's right next to a B1 zone on the east, and we've had preliminary discussions about rezoning to B1 because she's had trouble renting the house, selling the house, and there is commercial business on the west in that office building. Of course, medical uses on the east, the college to the south. So what we have done is looked at some findings of fact that staff would utilize to waive a preliminary development plan. And the zone change would comply with the future land use map, which is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The surrounding properties are shown as business park, not residential. Traffic counts range between 9,208 to 9,696 vehicles a day. The single-family home is non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback. It only sits 18.5 feet back from the right-of-way, and the prescribed setback is 25 feet. Medical uses are located to the east, offices to the west, and educational facilities to the south. B1 Convenience and Service Zone is located to the east of the site. Therefore, it would be a continuation of the B1 zone. And this home is the only residential structure along Alvin Barkley Drive between Interstate 24 and Pecan Drive. So those findings of fact actually speak to the highest and best use of that property being commercial and not residential. Another instance of when preliminary development plans are not needed is when something's already built on the property. And we've seen that in the past, Banks Market, Tenacity Training, Huck's, just to name a few, where there's actually a structure there with no need to change anything physically on the ground. And when the ordinance was written in 1992, we required a sketch plan. So when we would get a preliminary development plan in some instances, like a rezoning, multiple principal structures, it would go sketch plan, preliminary development plan, final plan. What we've done for a very long time is just use preliminary development plan, final plan, in an effort to be more business friendly. Now, technology has caught up with us since 1992. So we have online platforms such as Open Counter, which has been successful. Also, our site plan requirements are online. Developers know exactly what we need whenever we're looking at a preliminary development plan. Also, Kickstart meetings have been very helpful, and we've received a lot of positive feedback that developers have said, hey, this has really helped out quite a bit. And so with our site plan requirements online and our zoning ordinance, we would like to have that sketch plan part removed from the zoning ordinance to be more business friendly. So I would be glad to answer any questions that you all may have.
Well, I don't have any questions. I mean, I grew up next to that house in question out there across from WKCTC, so I'm very familiar with the family and that whole situation. I think one of the things that most people might be interested in is the clause around temporary signs and as it relates to political signs. And we found ourselves, sort of out of compliance, a few months ago in terms of the way our ordinance was written relative to how long we could leave signs up. And I think people generally in the community, I think they accept or they think that it's okay to put up signs 60 days before a race, get them down a week after. And so this ordinance, as it's changed, speaks to the spirit of that. But I guess technically, the way I understand it, just to call it out, you could actually leave a sign up longer than that if you replaced it with another sign that's exactly like it.
Yes, that is correct.
And that's in the language. So, when you think of political signs, you don't think of people going out and, after 67 days and replacing all their signs, with another sign just like it. So it kind of gets us in compliance with the Supreme Court decision, but also allows us, some guidance for people as it relates to temporary signs, and in particular political signs. And we're in the middle of political season, so there's signs out there, and people are out actively campaigning, and so.
Josh, how do you plan to enforce that?
That is done through fire prevention, and a lot of it would be through complaints. Hey, we have a sign that's been up 67 days. We would note that, which essentially could be day one if we haven't noticed it before. But if we have taken note of it prior or fire prevention, we can start from whatever day we knew for sure it was put up.
So what would be the consequences? The fire prevention would take them down? Is there a fine?
And they
or
hold
what?
them. Yeah, they could, fire prevention would take them down, plus we do have fines that they could incur in the zoning ordinance.
In reality, I hope it, would never come to that, but I don't know that that's reality.
I'm just planning to leave my signs up, so I'm just trying to figure out how to.
I just have to say, I just think they clutter up the beauty of our city. And so I think asking for 60 days is a reasonable request that I would hope people would abide by.
Right. So I would say if you see political signs up for a longer period of times, you could assume that somebody was out of compliance, with that ordinance, unless they had replaced that sign with a sign, another sign, which is highly, highly unlikely. So.
But it's important to note that that is any temporary sign, and
Yes.
we're not judging just based on the political aspect to stay in compliance of the Constitution.
And it's important to note that we are in compliance with the Constitution now and the Supreme Court ruling, so. Okay, any other? We've got four politicians up here, all have signs out, so.
Well, and just on the record, I absolutely hate them. Because I feel that they do take away from the beauty of our city. And they're a necessary evil, and I understand that, but.
Only in America. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Josh. Please call roll.
No, it's first reading.
I'm sorry, first reading.
I'm glad you did that.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you. Okay, we've got a discussion item tonight, and I wanted to bring it up to talk about it, openly. And that's we made a change in a certain section of town where we stopped picking up refuse in the alleys, and required our residents to take their trash cans to the street. There's a lot of reasons that we did that. I think it's important to note that that's a process that we've been going through for some time, taking trash collection out of the alleys and bringing it to the street. It has a lot to do with refuse. It has a lot to do with maintenance of the alleys themselves. It has a lot to do with the claims that we have paid out as a result of injuries that have occurred in alleys. There was a whole laundry list of reasons that we went through this, one of them being efficiency. There was a time when we went around the city with the smaller trucks and picked up trash cans by hand and put them in these smaller vehicles. We've gone to larger vehicles for efficiency, just a lot of reasons. And but the reason I bring it up is because there was a group of citizens that was that didn't like it. And so we spent, a good amount of time, researching, and understanding exactly why we made the decision, how we made the decision, and why our staff recommended that we do that, and we believe that it's a good thing, for all the citizens of Paducah. It is a change, and anytime you ask citizens to go through a change, it takes a while to adjust, and it's not initially accepted. But at any rate, I thought it was something that that I wanted to bring up openly, and I wanted to see if there was any discussion on the part of. I think we've had a group of citizens that's reached out to all the commissioners in one way, shape, or form, and I wanted to, give us an open forum to talk about that openly if there was any input, our thoughts about that. And we have a citizen here tonight who wants to talk, and so at some point in time, I'm going to ask Mr. Garricky to come up and make some comments. So any thoughts from commissioners first?
Now, I've received, obviously, calls and/or visits, and I think some of the points are valid, I think we've made some type of adjustment for people who are disabled. We've made adjustments for people who just can't move those carts from the alley to the front. So I think it is change, and I think that it's just a matter of adjusting and trying to make it work, and the city doing whatever we can to help accommodate in that change process.
Yeah, one of the things that, our current ordinance does not allow trash cans to stay in the alley, okay? Yet, I think that I'm not sure that all of our citizens who have had their trash picked up in the alley even know that.
Right.
Number one. And number two, when you leave the trash cans in the alley, and don't sort of pull them back up to your home or the yard, then that leaves the alley with trash getting out in the alley, And so there's a lot of some things that the city kind of we really haven't gone around and put little tags on trash cans and said, you can't leave it in the alley. So people have become comfortable with the fact that they could leave it in the alley. And so that was even a bigger change, because instead of pulling it back, instead of the change from taking it to the alley and pulling it back to the house to taking it to the road and pulling it back to the house, the change was bigger, because a good number of people weren't taking it out of the alley. It's the best way I can explain it. So at any rate, I think after a lot of research, and the overriding thing for me was we've got a significant amount of claims that were paid out, as a result of taking our big trucks in alleys. And so I do appreciate the feedback that we've got from citizens, and I would invite Mr. Garricky up here if you'd like to say a few words. Just remind you got 3 minutes, so try to be efficient. But thank you for being here, sir.
Yes, certainly. And thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, all. Sorry for the appearance. I did a face plant last Friday.
Oh.
But I think I can get all this said in 3 minutes, but if not, it'll be just over. I want to thank each of the council members who spoke to me about the change from the alley to the street. I know that there's a lot of different points of view about this. I believe that I have a reasonable, rational counterpoint to each of the points that have been raised. But Mayor Bray has made it clear that the collection issue has been definitely decided by the council, and that this commission, without any public input, is going to keep things the way they are. However, Mayor Bray has also stated that this commission is in the process of revising the city ordinances to return our city to council meetings, return the council meetings to allowing citizens to speak. Thank you very much. That will be a good start toward government of, for, and by the people again. On the specific issue of trash collection, I would ask that this council remove the city monopoly on the trash collection and allow citizens to decide for themselves how they want the service to be delivered. In other words, return Paducah to the free enterprise system that has built this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garricky. that's something I'd have to think about, that, your last comment there about free enterprise, and so I don't have enough information to really respond to that. But I do appreciate you being here, and I do appreciate the fact that you are an engaged citizen, and that is something that I value, and I know all of us do value. And that's the reason I came to your home, to make sure that you knew that the way our commission felt about it. And there probably is a better process. I think we probably could have made this change in a better manner, which I've, admitted to you a couple of times. And so we will use this as an opportunity for improvement. But thank you very much for being here. The next item, Mr. Garricky kindly introduced for us, and that is our Code of Ordinances, our Code of Ordinances, Section 2-145, which states that that an item must be on the agenda in order for people to come and speak about it. And I think the inferences from Mr. Garricky is that had he been, or others been allowed to come to a meeting, even though it wasn't on the agenda, but it was taking place, there would be more public knowledge of what the concern was. And I think it's a valid point. And so I just wanted to have that open discussion, with us. I think there is some history in the past where, there's been a lot of dissent at meetings over particular items. And, people have filled City Hall in the past, and we've had 20, 25, 30 people coming up and essentially, expressing dissent. Dissent and, and both sides. And it gets very long, and people are saying the same thing in a different way, So I think it's going to be up to us, to manage that process. But I've spoken to all of you all kind of privately to let you know that, wanted to bring it up. And I think it's something that we should strongly consider. And I would recommend us going back to it. And I just wanted to open it up for any discussion, any comments that you guys have.
Well, I agree, Mayor, that we should go back to allowing the citizens to speak about the concerns that they have. However, I think that it should be controlled in such a way to where it does not get long and people aren't saying the same things. And I think that it should be a respectful discourse, because I've seen some of the meetings in the past and they weren't very respectful. It turned into something that you don't want to ever experience, or no commissioner or the mayor should have to experience. So yeah, I think let's go back to that. Let's control it in that way. Let's have some ground rules. This is how it's going to work. This is how it's going to operate. And if you go outside of those parameters, then we'll shut you down or do something. Or we'll push a gong button. I don't know, but you won't be heard anymore.
I think the point is that I think it's important that, this is my view, it's important that we hear all the voices. We hear people, we all take calls, we get emails. I got calls and texts today about, what's going on at the Katterjohn Building. It's part of what we signed up for.
Absolutely.
And so while it may not always be the most pleasant thing, I think it's important that if somebody doesn't agree with us, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're in a democracy, this is America, and it's your right to disagree. So,
Well, I agree, but democracy and your right does not give anybody the privilege of being disrespectful.
absolutely, absolutely. Any other comments?
Well, until this administration, whenever I had served previously, it was that way. You could, it didn't have to be on the agenda, someone could come and speak. And Commissioner Wilson experienced the heat, if you will, for lack of a better way of saying it, which I think caused the change go back to, it had to be on the agenda in a more controlled environment. But from my perspective, I agree with you, Mayor. You know, citizens need to be able to have an opportunity to come at any given time and voice their concerns. But I think the key goes back to respectfulness and appreciating our seat and appreciating their seat and the give and take between the two. And I would like to think that when we open it back up and start having that conversation with people in chambers, that respectfulness will be there, that decorum will be maintained. And if for some reason it's not, then we'll have protocols in place that we can step back and pivot. But I really think it's what we need to do. I think that our citizens are entitled to that.
I agree with Commissioner Galton here that, 20 years ago, I don't remember having a problem with it when I was on the first time, and I think it's the people that go out of their way to come down here and speak for their 3 minutes, 1, 2, 3 times, on the introduction and the adoption that, because we went through some hard votes with the Sunday liquor sales and the smoking and bar. People
Right.
were very adamant about it, and doesn't matter what and I think it was their right. I think it was good for Paducah.
And I will go as far as to say I can appreciate a good, passionate exchange, but I know that it got a little past that. And when it starts to become dangerous and there starts to be threats that are made and things like that, then at that point, I can understand something needs to change at that point. But I just would like for us to go back, lay the trust out there, and let's try it.
And I think I told you I'm very willing to try it. I think it can cross the line when there are personal threats that are issued and insults. But I don't think that, I hope that would not happen. And I trust that you could control that meeting. If you're out of town, one of us could control it and work with it. And I'm all for us going back to it.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments, and I'll work with city manager and city clerk, and we'll start work on that. And maybe, up in Congress, they name bills after people, so maybe we call this the Garricky Ordinance, I don't know. But out of due respect for you, sir. So, at any rate, thank you for your comments. City manager, any comments tonight?
No, sir. Well, actually, yes. I would like to acknowledge all the hard work and efforts by our prevention staff in hosting their 10th annual conference.
Yeah.
It was well attended. I don't know if it was a record number, but they put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's for the ability to provide some continuing education. And I think we had, I don't know, Chief's here or not, or I think we had 3 states represented. It wasn't just Kentucky. I think we had a couple other states that were there. And so a lot of hard work and effort went into that, and just want to recognize that.
Okay, we have one more citizen who has some comments to make. Ms. Tracy? Welcome.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable commissioners. It's very nice to see you. I was very pleased to see on the agenda the proclamation and celebration for the 75th anniversary of the Catholic Church. And I think that's really important because it's one of the things that makes Paducah unique and wonderful to live in is we celebrate our past and we embrace it, which is the reason why I was quite shocked today when I drove up Jefferson and saw the Katterjohn being torn down, the north wing of it. This came as a complete surprise, and many of my neighbors who had other things to do tonight, otherwise they would be here too, would be in complete surprise. The Katterjohn is not just an ordinary building. It's a landmark that many people recognize. It's one of the largest significant buildings that has what I'd like to say, that great potential. Right now, we are going through a housing deficit an incredible housing deficit. And yet, by tearing down that building, we have lost that opportunity to rehab that building. And rehabbing is always cheaper and more cost-effective than building new construction, particularly now when materials are so very expensive. I say this because all too often, the answer to these types of situations of an abandoned building, we come to the same conclusion. We use the same tool to fix that problem, and that is demolition. In 4 years' time, Paducah, the city of, lost over 200 residential structures because of this attitude. In 4 years. We have to stop that if we want people to return to and stay in Paducah. We've flattened out, we've plateaued at 25,000 people. A large part of that is because we don't have housing for anymore. We don't have housing for our kids, let alone our grandkids. They can't afford the big houses that are being built. And the big houses are being built because that's easy. It's easy to build an expensive big house because you can hide a lot of oopses in a quarter or in a $500,000 house. It takes a lot more to do a smaller one. And in wrapping this up, you have said frequently that the phrase, "in the interests of transparency," Mayor Bray. None of the discussions, none of the issues associated with the Katterjohn were brought to light before now. KRS 65 gives a municipal government great latitude in what they can do for a derelict building. It doesn't always mean you have to demo it. A city can have a boarding option. A city can have a roof protection option. Other communities have done this. We do not have to demo things. And if we do demo, we can grab and keep those resources.
So I have to ask you to finish up.
Okay, the last item. That building is filled with gray slate tiles, the roof of it. Instead of taking those to a landfill, we should reclaim them to repair the roof that does remain. I mean, those are expensive tiles that are hard to find and last more than our lifetimes.
Thank you.
So I just want to say, there's another way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll just make a couple of comments. I mean, I think Ms. Tracy certainly represents, people in the community that, didn't really know what's going on and definitely are advocates, for rehabbing and and I would hope, I mean, the city doesn't own that building, and I would hope that the owners of that building would, now step up, if possible, and rehab, because we're not taking the whole building down. But at the end of the day, there has to be somebody that steps up and that's going to be willing to do that. And it is a tremendously expensive project. And so we'll continue to assess the opportunities, Tamara, as we go forward. Appreciate your thoughts, your insights, but this is a tough one. Thank you for being here. Okay, any comments? Okay. You have a comment? Sure. You're supposed to fill out something, but. Okay. No worries.
Appreciate you working with me. My name is Audra Ursini. I am Director of Business Operations with Quad State Internet. I just wanted to come here to thank the City Commission, the Mayor, the City Manager's Office, and the City Clerk for working with us on this telecommunications ordinance you guys passed recently. This will allow us and others to open up the market for citizens of Paducah. We've gotten so many calls from people asking, for us to expand our market in certain parts of the city. We're excited to work with the City Manager's Office and fill out our application. So I just wanted to thank you guys for working with us on that.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
And usually we don't get thank yous.
So you can come back in 3 more minutes if you want to.
Make a note of that.
Okay,
Can I add a moment to that?
sure.
Sorry, I'm new to this as well. I forgot about the form. My name is Josh Gold. I'm actually the Chief Technical Officer for ETEL. So we would be partnering with Quad State with the
Okay.
the entire operation. So we have been a part of the community through VCI and ETEL for
Yeah.
20 plus years.
Sure.
We are local. We are customer service based, 24/7 answering service here for a greater part of Paducah, expanding regions, and further on out. But we also thank you for your approval of that, so that we can continue to add to Paducah and offer something that I feel has been missing for a long time is excuse me, is beneficial internet to people at their houses. So that's something that's not been available readily, as you have Comcast and AT&T that offer certain things, but nothing homegrown in your pocket. So again, I thank you for that as well, and just wanted to add that to it.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And, internet, I think that's one of the reasons that we took a lot of care, because, man, in this day and age, without good internet, without high-speed internet, you just can't survive. And I think all of us, from time to time have had problems, with, internet going in and out. And I guess, everybody has some problems, but I think competition makes the world go round. And so I'm hoping that, I'm wishing you guys good success in your efforts. Okay, if there's any comments from the commissioners? Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Galt? Aye. Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.